He's one of the greatest Tolkien collectors in the community, and I traveled to Essex, England to have a chat with him, and of course to show his impressive collection to all of you. Hiya, I'm Juliana Sonsin, Tolkien Talk journalist and correspondent here in the UK. Today I'm visiting the home of Andrew Ferguson, better known as Trotter within the Tolkien community. This first video features a conversation with him, but before we head to the interview, please subscribe to our YouTube channels, Tolkien Talk and Tolkien Guide, and give this video a like and follow me on my social media channels. The first impression I had of Andrew's collection was amazement. Our conversation began with the origin of the name Trotter.
When I first started with that name, which was about 30 years ago, nobody really knew because they never read these. Trotter's in here, here, here. That's when, right at the last minute, Tolkien changed the name to Strider. The reason he changed the name was so it was a hobbit. When he changed Trotter to be a man who became Aragorn, he did so trotting wasn't appropriate because that's what horses do, so he called him Strider instead, so he changed the name.
You preferred him as a hobbit or as a man?
Well, I do. I always say that I prefer him as a hobbit, but I'm joking on that one because it's very good. It's much better. If it was a hobbit, I think, in the book, it wouldn't work. Because originally, when The Lord of the Rings was written, it was a book about hobbits. So there wasn't really, and Gandalf, there wasn't really anybody else in it. So there was certainly no real men, because there's hardly any men at all in The Hobbit. There's only a few, the like Bard but there's no other. They're all elves or dwarfs or hobbits. There's nothing else. And wizards.
Nice, and then you liked the character because you liked the name, the sound of it.
Not everyone could be called Aragorn because someone else has used that. So you want to pick a more obscure name. And on the Tolkien Guide, in particular, that is the name that I use. And I think most people on there hopefully know Trotter is by now.
You mentioned Tolkien Guide. Could you talk a little bit about it? What do you do there? If the audience doesn't know it.
Well, I hope the audience do know.
Of course they know it.
Well, some of them might not. Tolkien Guide was set it up, I think, in 2007, and it was set up by Jeremy Edmonds, who's called Urulókë on the Tolkien Guide. Originally, it was set up as a collector's guide, so it really was there for people who like collecting Tolkien, mad people like me who have big collections, and they want to get advice and they want to know about anything to do with collecting that's coming up. So auctions, new books, when covers change, mad things like whether the colour of the HarperCollins logo. So, for instance, that one was grey at one point, and now it's yellow on there. So people like to know that's changed.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, we've been trying to go away from it just being a collector's guide to being something that the community can use for Tolkien. Started off with things like a calendar. I don't know if you've ever seen a calendar.
Of course.
That is something that I find it's very useful, and I think anyone who likes Tolkien would get some benefits out of that. So it just shows you any events that are coming up for the next year or so on. And it's got.
I used it to get to know the British Library event.
Yes, it was on there. So we put things like that on there. Yeah. And when we find them, we put them on. They are heavily focused on being English. But I'm hoping over time we're going to try and expand this and so that other countries can put their own events on.
Nice.
Because it's much easier if you can put it in yourself. We also have a store, which is basically, we spend a lot of time developing this. And this is all the books primarily in English that are in print at the moment that you can buy. So if you want to buy a Tolkien book, if you go to, say, The Hobbit, they might have the paperback version of The Hobbit on there, and you can have a look and say, well, have I got that? So we have all the different illustrators, We have deluxe versions, super deluxe ones, every single one, ebooks, audiobooks. If you're interested in to see what versions of The Hobbit are available, say in English, if you go to the Tolkien Guide store, you can look at that.
That's an amazing work that you've done to the community.
Yeah.
Because
And the other big thing that we've really done on the site recently is the Tolkien Guide's letter. Some of them have been published in the Tolkien's letter, which has also been translated into Portuguese.
yeah.
And it's a very nice copy. But there's a lot of unpublished letters as well, and we are aiming. There's enough to do another book, so we're hoping at some point that HarperCollins might say, let's do another book, because they are fascinating.
You talked a little bit about the Trotter name. Could you talk a little bit about yourself, the Andrew figure too, like?
Right. When I was at school, this would have been when I was about 5 or 6. My teacher used to read books in the afternoon, and there was only 2 books that I can remember him reading, and one was a UK book called Stig of the Dump. The other one was a book called The Hobbit. Now, in 1976, I bought a copy of The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings with my Christmas money. It was actually a mistake in my book, and some of the pages were reprinted. So I didn't realise until I read it again, and then I thought, I've read this already. Why is this exactly the same? 2 chapters were exactly the same. They were printed twice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Huge mistake. Yeah.
And the bit that was missing was Tom Bombadil. So there was no Tom Bombadil in the book when I first read it. Didn't know he existed.
Yeah.
I then went and wanted to read the rest of the book, and my mother was a librarian.
Oh.
So I used to be able to go to the library.
Very helpful, right?
Yeah, and she would let me know when any new Tolkien books came out. And
It runs in the family. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in 1978 I bought a book that had come out the previous year called The Silmarillion. And I tried to read it, but failed miserably because
How old were you in this time?
How old was it? I was 11.
Yeah, but Silmarillion for 11-year-old boy,
it's not really. Well, again, I didn't know anything about it either. I thought it'd be the same as the Lord of the Rings.
You wanted to know more about this magical world.
Well, you sort of think it would be similar, but it is really. But it's just the earlier version of the tales.
And do you remember the feeling you've got when your teacher first read The Hobbit? Like, how did you feel?
I just thought it was just a fantastic book. It was so well written, and it does work. Well, he wrote it for his children, so the idea is that there's like cliffhangers at the end of the chapters, so it does work for reading for one chapter at a time. My favourite Tolkien book is The Hobbit, which is unusual because a lot of people always go for The Lord of the Rings, but it's The Hobbit, and I like that. That one more than any of the other books.
British schools usually use Tolkien's work in their daily routine, or
they didn't when I was at school, but I think they do now. Tolkien was sort of frowned upon at the time as just being a sort of fantasy writer, and it's not the sort of stuff that people should be reading. But that's all changed now. He is now one of our great British authors that he is taught at schools. But I'm hoping that primary school teachers for young children still read The Hobbit to them, because I think that's a great thing to do. And I'd encourage any teacher, if you want to read a book to your class, read The Hobbit.
And do you have the first book, the Hobbit book, the first edition that you've bought?
I do.
Yes, you have it. Yeah?
Yes.
Can you show us?
That's the first Hobbit that I ever bought.
That's the first one?
That's the first one.
Can I see it?
You can, yes. A few more since then.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
People have just nowadays just seen the films and not read the books, which is different from when I first read it, because hardly anyone had read him at all, really, in comparison with the population. In those days, it was quite difficult to find these people, but nowadays with the internet and stuff like
it's fascinating.
it's so much easier to get to know people who have a common interest.
We started get connected to people that used to like the same things, and now, well, I'm still doing that for talking about that, but it's the passion, right?
I think it's great, and it is really nice to be able to talk to people who have a common interest.
What does it mean to have a community nowadays about it? Because it could be a lonely path in the past, but nowadays it has changed.
It's nice to be able to say do research into things. I talked about the Tolkien's letters. To actually, that's something that I'm fascinated by. But when I go out and look at these letters and add them to the data, it doesn't just help me, it helps the whole community, because they can now find out more about letters that Tolkien has written. It's a nice community.
Curious, actually, with this next question, maybe we can talk a little bit, but the Tolkien films are being, the series is being adapted, and we had the Peter Jackson movie, so it's growing and growing. New fans are coming, and it's important to have the adaptations coming. Did you like the adaptations, the movies, the series?
I liked some of the adaptations. I really liked. My favourite adaptation is the BBC Radio. Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson films were really good. Obviously there's some issues with them, but there's issues with all adaptations. The Hobbit films I thought were terrible. But I don't think I'm the only person who thinks that. They were. I think if there'd been one film and he stuck a bit more to the book, I might have quite liked it. But not 3 films. It was just too much. Things like the Rings of Power, not really too sure about that. That isn't really, for me, the problem with the Rings of Power is it's not really Tolkien at all, really. It's somebody else writing it. Even Christopher Tolkien, it was not as good a writer as and he acknowledged that, as his father was. And I'm just so grateful that Christopher did manage to publish so much extra material of his father's, that we have so much to look at. If you like adaptations, please go and read the books, because I think you'll like them as well.
You were born in the UK, and for me, I was born in Brazil, and we don't actually see so many like products or references, and we see it here. It was a huge shock when I moved to the UK and I could see the landscape. It's like, oh my god, it's Tolkien here. So for me it was really like a dream come true, because I could enter to Tolkien's world, and so it's a huge privilege to be here. That's why I like to show and talk to people like you, because it's a connection to the audience in Brazil and Latin America. So I'm curious to know where can you see Tolkien in your daily routine in Essex or in London or in England or other places you go?
I think you can see Tolkien. You made the main thing is the landscape. Tolkien, when he's writing about Middle-earth, Middle-earth originally, well, he didn't say this, but his publisher and his biographer, so various other people said that the whole thing really is to write a legendary story about England, and England is the centre of the mythology to begin with. You actually look at a map of the Shire, a map of Middle-earth, where the Shire is, that is England. What you're looking at is what Tolkien thought was the Shire. Tolkien was trying to come up with something for England, because after the Norman conquest in 1066, the language in the tradition changed to be more French and Latin, and the Anglo-Saxon bit disappeared, and we lost a lot of the stories. So Tolkien was trying to write them because they weren't there, because there weren't many stories around. So yes, I think you can see it everywhere when you look at the landscape. The hobbits are meant to be English people. Whether that's nice or not, I don't know, because some of them are a bit stupid.
Of course it is.
Well, some of them are stupid though, but I do quite like. They're meant to. And he said that he was a hobbit. You can also see it in terms of the language that Tolkien used, because Tolkien was using languages like Old English, Middle English to a certain degree, Old Norse.
Now regarding your collection, this first video we're gonna talk about just for audience to get to know a little bit about you, but I wanted to give audience a glimpse on your collection, so we can see like huge collection here, but there's more. What is the size of this collection?
It's over 1,000 items.
1,000 items.
Lord of the Rings, I've got about 175 copies of the Lord of the Rings, about 125 copies of The Hobbit.
Everything is like, as you can see here, you have the names of the bookcase, the numbers of it.
I have a spreadsheet with them all on.
Of course you do have.
Well, I need to know where they are. One of the problems, if you have a big collection like this, you can often see something and think, oh, I'll buy that. And then you've already got it, because you've forgotten. So I can tell now on my spreadsheet, I can see exactly what's in. There's actually stuff behind.
The collection.
There's things behind here as well.
Okay. So thank you so much, Andrew,
That's very good. I enjoyed
this chat.
It was great recording this. I always love talking about Tolkien, and I think please subscribe to the channel. It's a great channel to subscribe to, and also please consider subscribing to the Tolkien Guide YouTube channel and visiting the Tolkien Guide website, which is TolkienGuide.com.
Thank you so much.